My name is Peter Porter. I am a high school history teacher at Montville Township High School and an adjunct history professor at Seton Hall University, and I'm also a member of the teaching division of the AHA. I was one of the more recent teachers to actually be brought to the council, in large part thanks to James Grossman's effort to take the AHA into an area that was more embracing for all historians. So I have kind of been the advocate for the K-12 world and just tried to speak to those issues as directly and informatively as I possibly could. I think what we hope to do moving forward is to increase our visibility in the K-12 world and to kind of communicate to the K-12 community how much the AHA can bring to the table for them. And I can say that my membership in the AHA dates back to when I was a graduate student, and I have always found the environment that the AHA brings to enrich my teaching. I try to engage my students in the historical process by finding ways to light the fires of their interest or to push a button that gets them kind of going. So early in the year, it's more of a kind of feeling out process, learning those interests that they have that you can tie in. If a kid's more into science, well then how can I drift it in towards science? As teaching has really become student-centered, which is a big move right now, especially in relation to the Common Core, it has become slightly easier in that we are taking the role more of the facilitator. We help to introduce the topic and then kind of let the student explore the topic in their own way and find things about it that they may find interesting. A good example is World War II. You know, maybe a student isn't interested in the battles, but maybe the student's a real car nut, and you allow him to look at how the car industry shifted gears first into producing weapons and then getting out of weapons and how that whole role changed, and they might find an interest in that. For my freshmen, I'm always trying to get them indoctrinated into the new environment of being in high school and coming to understand better what historical thinking is, because their understanding of that is very limited. So looking at how history can teach us lessons that we can learn from and how the investigations we do very much affect other things, whether it's science or English. For my seniors, it's an adamant insistence on getting them ready for college, making sure that they understand what their expectations are going to be, what those challenges are, and how to best face them and master them. And then when I do the survey course as an adjunct, it almost goes back to that freshman role again, even if I have seniors in the class, because not all those students are going to be history majors. I've had two really important professional development experiences. The first is being a reader for the advanced placement exam. And the reason that experience was so important is the environment involves high school teachers, professors, and the College Board personnel interacting. And so you're in an environment where everybody is doing what you do, and the conversations are about what you do, and they're just that much more filling and enriching as you talk about whether it's practice or some content issue. They go much deeper than you can get. You can't go sit with a bunch of friends at a restaurant usually and say, well, let's talk about the JFK assassination today and have it go very far. But when you're sitting in a room of readers about the AP European History exam, you can say, wow, Martin Luther, do you really think he did this? And yeah, it's a geeky conversation in a way, but it's a conversation you're all there to hear, and it helps build your teaching. The real second experience was through the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Gilder Lehrman seminars. And the format that they've developed in both of those, whereby history teachers interact with scholars, it enriches the content knowledge of the teacher, and also with your interaction with your colleagues, you start to learn different ways that you can bring that material back to the classroom. And teachers always feel much greater appreciation when they interact with a scholar who is very respectful of what they do and understands the challenges that they face. And I think these seminars have been great bridges between the scholarly community and the K-12 teaching community. Well, one of the things we've been working hard on is developing the K-12 membership. I still think we have some work to do, but we've been very good at engaging teachers and discussing this and trying to get their ideas on what it is that the AHA could offer. One of the easiest ones was always talking about JSTOR, because teachers have such limited access in many cases, although it's getting better, to scholarly articles, primary sources, And JSTOR, as one example, has offered that. But there are many other things that teachers now are starting to look for. Many comments on the advocacy of the AHA and getting involved with the situation with the advanced placements issues in Colorado, where the school board wasn't sure if they were teaching U.S. history correctly, and teachers appreciated that. So I think for the council, it's going to be a matter of continuing to move forward, hopefully creating a K-12 task force that will involve teachers, some members from the community college community, and professors who look at teaching and start to see how we can engage this part of our membership and make them a more vibrant part of our community, where they're contributing and they're trying to increase not just historical knowledge, but historical teaching. Because at the end of the day, the K-12 teacher is probably the one that's the most in the trenches. Many still don't understand what the Common Core is. And I think that one of the things I'm very appreciative in my time on the council that different council members have helped me come to grips with is digging in your heels and piling the sandbags and preparing for a battle isn't always the most effective way to engage these new ideas that are coming. And K-12 teachers struggle mightily with the fact that pretty much the lexicon, the thesaurus of education is going to change every 4 to 8 years. The next president's going to change the verbiage and in many cases even the practice. To some degree, maybe not drastically, but a little bit. So you always feel that you're at the whim of whatever the political winds are bringing. So with the Common Core in particular, to come to grips with understanding what it is first. And regardless of what's been said, the fact that history is on the last page and one chart on the document speaks to some of what the problem is in coming to grips with the Common Core. And I think the AHA, in working with NCSS and creating the C3, has done a lot to help history teachers kind of come to better grips. I think the other thing I've learned in different places is that while we may not appreciate whose motivation is behind the Common Core and what the goal is, there is a way to use it to create critically thinking students, and very good critically thinking students. And so to reach out to the K-12 community, I think the challenge is to see that and to engage your students and to continue to develop those critical thinkers and those historical thinkers that you want, just using the avenues of the Common Core and what those above you that you have to answer to want. In my case, in preparing the students, it's trying to help those who have great anxiety about standardized tests. I think when you look at standardized tests, the biggest thing now is the loss of seat time, as they call it in education, with the student and the teacher interacting. And instead this focus on the test and then the actual testing itself. With the implementation in my own state of the newest batch of standardized tests, we're looking at an increase of testing time almost doubling. And so administrators are struggling with, well, how do I recover that time? And one of the areas they're looking at is the area where high schoolers take midterms and finals. How do you shrink that time to increase the student learning time? Because they obviously can't tell the state to go fly a kite. They have to do those standardized tests. So it's a struggle going on back and forth. I've even asked the AP people the other day in a meeting to discuss, ways that AP teachers might look at doing something alternatively if they don't have a final or a midterm, in there. The finals don't matter as much because the AP exam's in May, but the midterms usually matter as you're trying to set your students up for that. So I think that's been one of the biggest challenges is the testing, which is really polar opposite of what the Common Core is all about as well. And sometimes students pick up on that and ask you about it. Well, wait a minute, you want me to take charge of my own education and to be empowered, but now I'm going to lose all this time on something because I got to get ready for this test. And then you still have to mix in test-taking strategies. And as these new tests come out, their questions are different, so you have to quickly learn what the testing is like so you can communicate that to the students. I look forward to the future in the AHA of continuing that dialogue with the teaching community, the K-12 teaching community. And while I hope at some point that instead of saying K-12, we're saying K-16 and recognizing our similarities, we're not there yet. And I hope that we can take a track very similar to what the community colleges did, in which the community college task force was created, engagement was begun, and the community college community has responded very well. We're not done yet. We have a lot of work to do with them, but we've done it with the community colleges now in the AHA, we've done it with public historians, and I look forward to continuing our efforts in K through 12 and getting to that point where the K through 12 community feels fully engaged and feels fully a part of the AHA.